Road Safety Strategy Statement. Minister Lilian Greenwood. Minister.
With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to make a statement on our new National Road Safety Strategy. It's a sad truth that by the time I finish speaking and we hear the response from the opposition, it's likely that someone will have died or been seriously injured on our roads. And it's an even sadder truth that this would likely have been entirely preventable. Despite having some of the safest roads in the world, last year over 1,600 people died on our roads, with nearly 28,000 seriously injured. Over the course of my lifetime, road safety has improved immeasurably, in no small part, thanks to a titan of my party, Barbara Castle. Yeah. But it's safe to say the last 10 years represent a lost decade. Yeah. Death and serious injury numbers have plateaued, despite improvements in vehicle safety. The UK has slipped from 3rd to 4th in Europe's road safety rankings, and the human cost of too little action and too much complacency is clear. Lives taken too soon, lives altered beyond recognition, and lives grieved by families left behind. And if that wasn't enough, a decade without a comprehensive road safety strategy meant the country lost out on nearly £7 billion in economic output last year. This situation should not just give us pause, it should spur us to action. Because we wouldn't tolerate this on our railways, we wouldn't tolerate this in our airspace, and I am determined we no longer tolerate this on our roads. Yeah. That's why I'm standing here today to say quite simply, enough is enough. Madam Deputy Speaker, the targets we are setting match the full measure of our ambition. We want to reduce the number of people killed or seriously injured on British roads by 65% by 2035 and by 70% for children under 16. Our vision is clear. Any road user, however they choose to travel, should be able to move safely on our roads. And this strategy has 4 main ways we will deliver that vision. Firstly, we'll put all road users at the heart of this strategy. Madam Deputy Speaker, when it comes to protecting vulnerable road users, we will be guided by the evidence. We know, for example, young drivers between 17 and 24 are at higher risk of death or serious injury on our roads. They account for 6% of driving licences, yet are involved in 24% of fatal and serious collisions. That's why we will consult, not just on a minimum learning period for learner drivers, but on a lower blood alcohol limit for novice drivers. And I'd like to recognise the Honourable Member for Shrewsbury, who secured an important debate on young driver safety last January. Yeah. Another key area is the safety of older drivers. In 2024, around 24% of all car drivers killed were aged 70 or older. While driving is rightly seen as a vital form of independence in older age, it cannot come at the expense of safety. So we will consult on mandatory eyesight tests for drivers over 70 and explore options for cognitive testing, recognising the risks of driving with conditions such as dementia. We also will not ignore the fact that motorcyclists are 40 times more likely to be killed or seriously injured on our roads compared to car drivers. So we will reform the motorcycle training, testing and licensing regime. And that starts today with a consultation that includes removing the ability to ride on L plates indefinitely. Madam Deputy Speaker, let me move on to advances in technology and data. We will consult on mandating 18 new vehicle safety technologies under the GB Type Approval Scheme, a change that could prevent more than 14,000 deaths and serious injuries over 15 years. This includes autonomous emergency braking, a proven safety technology which Mira Naran has tirelessly campaigned for as Dev's law after the tragic loss of her son. and I'm delighted to see her in the public gallery today. She's been an incredible campaigner on this issue. And to learn from collisions and prevent future harm, we will establish a data-led road safety investigation branch covering the whole of Great Britain. This will draw on data to carry out thematic investigations and make recommendations. And to give those involved in collisions the best chance of survival, we will ensure police-recorded collision data and healthcare data are shared more effectively. The third theme is about infrastructure. Safer roads and effective speed management are essential pillars of the safe system approach which guides this strategy. That starts with investment. And this government is providing £24 billion between 2026 and 2030 to improve motorways and local roads, building on record funding for pothole repairs. We'll also publish updated guidance on setting local speed limits and the use of speed and red light cameras, supporting local authorities to make evidence-based decisions. And because rural roads remain among the most dangerous, with motorcyclists often navigating sharp bends, we'll build on the success of Project Prime in Scotland, which saw real safety improvements thanks to new road markings. And finally, let me talk about enforcement. We know most drivers are safe and we don't want to get in their way. However, they need to feel confident this government has their back. So my message to the minority of drivers, those who are unsafe and reckless, is simple. If you drive dangerously, if you drive illegally, if you make our roads less safe, you will face the consequences. Take drink and drug driving. In 2023, we know it was a contributory factor in 18% of road fatalities. So we will consult on lowering the drink drive limit, which has not changed in England and Wales since 1967. We will review penalties for drink and drug driving offences and explore the use of alcohol interlock devices. And new powers will be considered to suspend licences for those suspected of the most serious offences. We're also proposing tougher penalties for those who drive without insurance. And I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Swindon North for his persistent advocacy on this issue. And we'll look at penalty points for failing to wear a seatbelt or failing to ensure child passengers are wearing theirs too. And thanks to the tireless campaigning of both the Honourable Member for West Bromwich and the Honourable Member for Rochdale, we are tackling illegal number plates. We'll increase penalties for using illegal plates and will ensure that DVLA is empowered to carry out more robust checks on number plate suppliers. Madam Deputy Speaker, these are rightly bold ambitions, and they cannot be met by government working alone. We call on the support of members from all sides of the House, and we extend our hand in partnership to the devolved governments, mayors, local authorities, the police and other stakeholders. Finally, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Brentford and Isleworth for her support on behalf of the Transport Select Committee, and the Honourable Member for Rosindell and Darwen as Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Transport Safety for his advocacy on this important issue. Madam Deputy Speaker, I've sat with families torn apart by deaths and serious injuries on our roads. It's one of the hardest parts of my job. But even through intolerable pain, they campaign, they fight, they demand change so that others can be spared their sense of loss. This strategy is for those brave families, Madam Deputy Speaker. I truly believe this is a turning point for road safety in this country, where we finally put victims at the heart of policy making, where we finally see road safety as a shared responsibility, where we finally understand that while driver or rider error is inevitable, fatalities and serious injury are not. A multi-layered system from safer speeds and safer vehicles to safer roads and robust enforcement. That's how we protect every road user. That's how we ensure people walk away from collisions rather than being carried. And that's how we deliver safer roads for everyone who relies on them. I've laid copies of the documents in the libraries of both houses, and I commend this statement to the House.
For the Chancellor Secretary of State, Richard Holden.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advanced sight of the statement, although some of it was obviously reported in the Times earlier this week as well. I welcome the fact that the Government has published the Road Safety Strategy, and I really do welcome the broad ambition, which I am sure is shared right across the House, to reduce the number of people killed and seriously injured on our roads. As a former roads minister myself and as a local MP, I've too met many grieving families torn apart by deaths on our roads. And the fact that we've seen a 10 to 15% reduction since 2010 does not mean that we do not need to go further. In that spirit, I would like to welcome the comprehensive look at motorcycle training, as announced by the Minister, as well as the expansion of Project Prime from Scotland on motorcycle safety. I think that will be a major improvement to our road safety. I also welcome stiffer fines and enforcement against bad faith drivers, particularly including ghost plates, as has been mentioned, and also attacks on those who are trying to evade justice via the use of dodgy number plates, but also other things to conceal their identity. I also welcome the Road Safety Investigation Branch and the better use and collation of data and sharing of data. Those are incredibly important. And it's also welcome the inclusion of Charlotte's Law, which will help prevent people who are trying to evade justice or basically by ensuring that timely blood testing can take place in the most serious of cases. There are areas where it is clear that there will be concern around some of the new moves announced, and whether they are wholly related to road safety. But I would like to look at a couple of those. In oral questions, the Minister for Local Transport appeared to suggest that some of the reason for delaying for 6 months after getting a after getting a theory test was around ensuring that there could be more driving tests available. In reality, this will mean that there will actually just be an even larger group of people waiting to book driving tests. And I fear that the government has not really fully thought through the consequences of this implication and the implications of this. I remember meeting a woman aged 60 who just lost her husband of 40 years. She lived in a small village with no bus service. She'd always relied on him to drive. Are we really telling her that she's going to have to take a theory test and then wait 6 months after having passed that theory test in order to be able to take a driving test? I can think of women in some similar circumstances, many of whom don't take men take more driving tests than women in earlier stage in life, and maybe only when they move for jobs or after having children do they take driving tests. I think we need to think through the consequences of some of what the government is proposing properly today. I also think it's important that we broadly look at this and to ensure that we are not restricting freedoms via legislation to fix the problems which are there as a result of not sorting out driving tests. On another matter, no one in this House disputes that drink driving is totally unacceptable, but I hope that ministers and the Secretary of State reflect on the experiences in Scotland where there have been changes already in this space, where there are already concerns right across the hospitality sector in this country that there isn't clear evidence of improved road safety outcomes for these changes. In fact, it is extraordinary that the Department, and I just want to quote a written answer to one of my written questions, has not even made an assessment of the impact on the economic viability of pubs in Scotland as a result of the changes that have happened already up there. Changing the legal limit alone will not change behaviour, and any reform must be based on a thorough examination of the evidence and the impacts, and not on attempts to look tough. Alongside alcohol, the House must not lose sight of drug driving. I welcome some of the measures announced today. However, they do seem rather vague around commitments to testing, and it would be great to hear more from the Minister on this, because the police really are pushing for more roadside testing around drugs. I know there has been an emphasis, and governments of all stripes have pushed an emphasis on education and behavioural change. However, that does sit uneasily with this government's cutting by £1.2 million last year of the money for the Think Road Safety campaign budget, particularly when lifelong learning and changes are so critical to many of the plans that the government has announced today. And that, Madam Deputy Speaker, brings me to a final major point, which is around enforcement. This place can pass all the laws it wishes, but if they aren't enforced, then all that actually does is undermine faith in our democratic institutions. The House will be very aware that police numbers under this government are down by around 1,300 on the latest figures. But enforcement sits at the heart of any credible road safety policy. So I'd like to hear from the Minister if there are plans to ensure additional roads policing going forwards to ensure that enforcement does take place. And finally, there are some omissions. Why still exclude vulnerable road users, motorcyclists, from bus lanes in many areas? There is a real missed opportunity to improve safety and survival for those people. There's also a glaring absence when it comes to tackling the scourge of unlicensed and uninsured criminals driving with impunity. Measures such as requiring proof of identity to register a vehicle could have been included, as recommended by the all-party parliamentary group on road safety, and I'm sure that the member for Bladen and Consett will mention perhaps that too in her remarks. Madam Deputy Speaker, road safety is not delivered by strategies alone, and not delivered by consultations. It's to be delivered when the law is clear and evidence-based, enforcement is consistent, and the government is willing to confront difficult issues rather than rely on process and pre-briefed headlines. While we welcome many of the measures here, there are still many questions to be answered, and I look forward to the Minister's response.
Minister Greenwood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the support from the Shadow Secretary of State for our measures to tackle road harm. I was slightly surprised by his comment about the coverage in the press, because we did, of course, publish the strategy yesterday, giving him the opportunity to have a full 24 hours to read it. Nevertheless, I note his comments and I welcome his support. I also note his comment about the reduction in those killed and seriously injured over the previous government's term. I welcome the fact that numbers went down slightly, but they're nothing to the level of ambition that this government is showing and that the seriousness of this problem requires. Turning now to his questions. He's questioned why we're introducing a minimum learning period for new drivers. This is a safety measure. It's about saying that in order to set people up for a lifetime of safe driving, whenever they take their driving test and learn to drive, they need to get a range of pre-test practice in a variety of conditions. We want people to take the time to learn properly, to make sure that they know how to cope with things like extreme weather and driving at night and driving on a range of different sorts of roads. And we think that that's the right thing to do. Nevertheless, it is of course subject to a consultation, and we will listen carefully to all the views expressed in that. When it comes to drink driving, of course we don't want to stop people from going out and enjoying our hospitality sector. What we are clearly saying is that if you're going to go out and have a drink, leave your car at home. Reducing the drink drive limit would simply bring England and Wales into line with Scotland and the rest of Europe. We are the only countries, except perhaps Malta, that have this higher drink drive limit. And the evidence suggests we are no longer the safest. We have been dropping down the rankings, and progress has stalled compared with other countries across Europe. Sir Peter North's review in 2010 estimated that reducing the drink drive limit from 80 milligrams to 50 milligrams would save an estimated 43 to 168 lives each year and avoid a very large number of serious injuries. A conservative estimate put that at 280. We are acting on the evidence. When it comes to drug driving, we are, of course, looking at how we can make better use of testing. I know that too many people who have suffered at the result of someone drug driving wait a long time for that cases to come to court. They're too long to process that, and that's why we are looking at things like roadside testing and whether that can be part of the process. And the Think campaign continues to be our award-winning prospect. We target that work, that publicity, at those who cause most danger. So it's particularly targeted at young men aged 17 to 24. And at the end of last year, we did an anti-drug driving campaign, the first in 10 years, using the sorts of media channels where it gets to those who we're trying to target, including things like TikTok and Instagram. And finally, he's right to speak about enforcement. That's why this government is investing in additional police officers, an extra 3,000 police officers by March and 13,000 by the end of this Parliament. We are responding to the requirements that the police need. We are giving them the legislation and the powers that they need to crack down on those who cause danger on our roads, and I'm very pleased to see that our strategy has been welcomed by the National Police Chief Council's lead for roads policing, Joe Shiner. Finally, I welcome the other comments that he's made, and I'm sure we look forward to reading the official opposition's comments in response to our consultations.
Committee Chair Ruth Cadbury.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. This strategy and the many elements within it are hugely welcome. And I congratulate the government for doing what the previous government spent 14 years not properly addressing, during which time too many have been killed and seriously injured on our roads in preventable incidents. Madam Deputy Speaker, when the Secretary of State appeared previously before the Transport Committee, she spoke positively about London's Vision Zero strategy. Now that the road safety strategy is published, is the government planning to adopt a Vision Zero strategy nationally? And if not, why not?
Minister.
So I thank my honourable friend for her question and indeed for her support on this issue. She's right to commend Transport for London, and indeed a number of mayors and local authorities have adopted Vision Zero strategies. Of course, we want to get to a position where the number of people killed and seriously injured on our roads is zero. But in setting out this strategy, in re-establishing national road safety targets, we have established what we think is achievable, and of course in the longer term we want to work towards a position where no one is injured on our roads.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Olly.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I start by thanking the Minister for her speech and for the strategy. It is something that we welcome, having been calling for an updated road safety strategy for some time, following years of neglect of our roads by the previous Conservative government. The strategy shows serious intent, and I commend the thought and research that has gone into it and the breadth of thinking on display. It's also welcome that it is largely substance rather than gimmicks, which could have been the case. And in particular, we welcome the fact that the Ryan's Law campaign for penalties for hit and run, championed by my honourable friend, the member for North Cornwall, is incorporated into the strategy. In terms of concerns, much of the strategy is based on a commitment to undertake consultations. And I hope that the Minister would agree with me that we wouldn't want to see a repeat of the length that it has taken to undertake a pavement parking consultation, admittedly one initiated by the previous government, which was 5 years until we had the welcome announcement of something today. Consultations need to be meaningful, but they also need to be time-bound and then translated into action. There are a number of areas that I think need focus in terms of the significant impact on some groups within society that these measures will have, right though they are, for advancing road safety. Firstly, in terms of older people, the older generation has grown up in an age of decades worth of government policy promoting travel by car, and therefore this runs the risk of having a significant impact on them. They also suffer, as I've had from constituent casework, DVLA administration failures in terms of processing medical changes, etc. So it further strengthens the importance of improving public transport to reduce car dependency, in particular development of demand-responsive transport in rural areas, something that the Transport Select Committee has looked at in some detail. This also runs the risk of placing further pressure on the rural economy. Our pubs and farming communities are already under real pressure from increased alcohol taxation, business rates, inflation and poor international trade arrangements. So it makes it even more important that they are properly supported and that the government listens, including to Liberal Democrat calls for a 5% cut to VAT on hospitality. It's welcome that the strategy mentions potholes, which is something that drives all of our constituents mad, particularly mine on the A4130 between Didcot and Wallingford and at Milton Interchange in Queensway. And most importantly, we need to support young drivers, and more is needed given the government has twice already moved its deadline for reducing the wait for tests for 7 weeks. The 6-month wait is understandable, but it really is important that we support young people.
Minister, the Liberal Democrat front bench know they have 2 minutes, not 2 minutes 50 or 3 minutes 10, but it's 2 minutes. Minister.
Well, I thank him for his words of support. Can I be clear that we are consulting on a number of these measures in the road safety strategy in order that that the public and stakeholders have an opportunity to share their views. This is not the intent for us to delay. The consultations will be open for 12 weeks and then we intend to take concrete action as a result of the feedback that we receive. Some of the measures in this strategy will take very little time and don't require legislation. Others will require secondary legislation or indeed primary legislation. But we intend to take action in order that we can meet those ambitious targets that we've set that are just 9 years away. I totally understand what he says about older people. We don't want to restrict older people's independence, and we know how important driving can be. But the truth is we need to keep people safe, and we don't want anyone on our roads whose medical condition means that they are not safe to drive. And many people, or some people, may be inadvertent that their eyesight has deteriorated and poses a danger to others. And I know that many families find it very difficult to have some of those conversations with an older relative about when's the right time to stop driving, so that we hope that the measures that we're proposing around eyesight testing will help in some of those circumstances. I recognise what he says about rural areas and the need to ensure that these measures are rural-proofed. When it comes to potholes, he's right. They're not only very annoying for all of our constituents, they're a real danger to pedestrians and cyclists and those and motorcyclists indeed. That's why this government is investing £7.3 billion over the spending review period in local roads maintenance on top of the additional £500 million this year. So we are giving local authorities that long-term funding settlement so they can improve the quality of the roads that we were shockingly left behind by the previous Conservative government. And when it comes to young drivers, we have considered very carefully the right balance between protecting young people who we know are at particular risk whilst not curtailing their opportunities for work and education and social activities.
Sarah Coombes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to thank the Minister for all her hard work on this strategy. I have got no doubt that it will save lives. I have spent the last year campaigning against ghost number plates, which make drivers invisible to speed and police cameras. These plates are great for car racers and criminals and terrible for the rest of us. They've spent years going under the radar, but today they have been rumbled. And I'm delighted the Minister has announced a massive crackdown on these plates. Can I ask the Minister, how soon will these dodgy ghost plate drivers start to get penalty points on their licence and their vehicles seized for using these plates? And when will we start to see these MOT number plate checks?
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question and for, as I said earlier, for the outstanding work she has done to bring this issue to national attention. As she knows, we launched yesterday, alongside the road safety strategy, 5 consultation documents, one of which is about motoring offences, which includes our intention to have tougher penalties on those who use illegal plates and to strengthen the role of DVLA in looking at number plate suppliers and in taking action. I do not intend to delay, but some of the, obviously we need to await the end of the consultation, and some of these measures will require legislation.
Andrew Snowden.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I'd like to thank the Minister for her time in discussing these issues. As a former Police and Crime Commissioner who funded a dedicated roads policing unit, this is something that's close to my heart. Two points I'd like to make, both on drunk and drug driving. The first is on drink driving, where I do fear that reducing the national alcohol limit for England and Wales is potentially a red herring policy that will distract from where the real harm and damage comes from, which is focusing on those who ignore the drink drive limit no matter what it is. The second area I'd like to thank the Minister for is the focus on drug driving. We're going to see police forces this year in their Christmas operations reporting more drug than drink detections for the first time, which is good that it's being detected, but it is just scratching the surface of the problem. And we really need to focus in on those who take drugs and drive cars. And I welcome any further details from the Minister on the specifics that mean we can start doing that as soon as possible and get them off our roads.
Well, I thank him for his continued interest in these areas. When it comes to drink driving, as I said earlier in response to the Shadow Secretary of State, we are drawing on evidence. The UK is an outlier when it comes to our drink drive limit. It has been the same for almost 60 years, and this will simply bring us into line with Scotland and most of the rest of Europe. In Scotland, drink drive fatal collisions halved in the decade after they reduced the drink drive limit. And as I've said, the evidence from Sir Peter North's review in 2010 estimated that this would save dozens of lives. That's what this road safety strategy is about. It isn't about curtailing people's freedom to drive. It is about saving lives, as are the measures that we're looking at in relation to drug driving, which we know is a growing problem. We are determined to crack down on it.
Andy MacNae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank the Minister for her statement and for a great personal commitment to this vital issue. It's clear the government's listened to families and to the road safety community and followed the evidence. The strategy rightly recognised the importance of local partnerships in delivering on the ambitions of a strategy. Unfortunately, in Lancashire, the reform-led county council insist on waiting for fatalities and serious injuries to occur before acting, seemingly regardless of concerns raised by residents. Would the Minister agree with me that to deliver on this strategy and save lives, local authorities like Lancashire must have a more proactive approach, listening to communities, identifying risk areas and acting before people are killed or injured?
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his question and for the incredible work that he's been doing through the APPG. He raises concerns about Lancashire's Reform Council, and true to form, there are no members or Reform members of the House here today to debate this issue. I've been really concerned that some local authorities hide behind the national guidance around setting speed limits and around the deployment of speed cameras to say that they have to wait for a fatality to occur before they can take action. That is not the case. We are intending to strengthen the guidance that we provide to local authorities to enable them to listen to community concerns and to act to save lives.
Andrew Rosindell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome all efforts by the government to make roads safer for pedestrians and motorists, but I heard nothing about roadkill of wildlife, horses, pets and other animals that also can cause collisions involving the deaths of human beings. For instance, in my constituency, Havering Etty-Bower is a rural Essex village, a lot of horse riders. Now, I'm told that up to 700 horses have been killed on the roads in recent years, and up to 50 riders. Also, we have a lot of roaming deer in areas like Harold Hill and Notekill. Apparently, up to 75,000 of the deers are killed on the roads, hedgehogs and others. So there's a lot going on here which also needs to be considered regarding wildlife. And we also know that some creatures don't have to be registered if they are run over by a motor vehicle. So will she consider looking at the Road Traffic Act 1988 to include cats and other wild animals?
Minister.
Well, I thank the honourable member for that question. He's absolutely right that on rural roads in particular there are dangers posed by drivers who hit animals, and he's right to raise concerns about horse riders. He will know that the Highway Code was strengthened to ensure that those who are driving are mindful of horse riders and the need to pass them safely and slowly and with sufficient room. And we will look at what more we can do to strengthen the advice and guidance and make sure that people are aware of those issues in the Highway Code. I have listened carefully to many people who've raised with me the concerns around cats, and indeed some work is underway in DEFRA to look at further research on that issue.
David Williams, who is permitted to leave early so he can deal with this cough. David Williams.
That's really kind of you after the full morning in the chamber, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I warmly welcome this road safety strategy today that will save the lives of thousands of people across the next decade. Now, as the Minister knows, because we've had countless meetings, I've been campaigning alongside Claire, the mother, the incredibly brave mother of 6-year-old Charlotte Skye Naglis, who was so tragically killed by a motorist in my constituency of Stoke-on-Trent North in Kidsgrove. Now, under the current law, police are unable to test the blood of unconscious suspects until they are in a position to give consent. And in their deepest moments of grief, Charlotte's family couldn't get the answers they needed. So my question to the Minister, does the Minister agree with me that through consultation we now have an opportunity to change this and bring justice and a lasting legacy for Charlotte and her family, so that no other families have to face the pain and anguish that they did?
Yeah. Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question and for the work that he's done to ensure that this case was brought to my attention. And indeed, Claire's voice and that of many bereaved families have been in my mind as we've been devising this road safety strategy. He will have seen that in the consultation on offences, we are looking to introduce Charlotte's Law to ensure that no other family suffers what they suffered.
Sir David Davis.
In the light of what was essentially a very sensible statement, can I ask the Minister a point of clarification, really? She talks about data technology and innovation. Has the government even considered an experiment in mandatory black box technology for very young drivers? The AA and the British Insurance Association have say that this could save 35% or reduce by 35% the number of accidents.
Minister.
Well, I thank the Right Honourable Member for his question, and he's right that many young drivers will seek lower insurance as a result of having a black box in their car. This was one of the issues that was considered as part of Driver 2020, the research carried out by the previous government. I have to say that the results from that were not conclusive in terms of suggesting that that would make a difference. However, I remain open to being evidence-led, and if there is further information that comes forward, we will be happy to consider those issues.
Collier.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I firstly recognise the Minister's dedication on this issue over many years, and I'm glad that she's in the position today to be able to carry this out, because this strategy rightly focuses on reducing death and injury on our roads. And in our own communities, we know of places that are accident hotspots and speeding hotspots where it's only a matter of time before something happens. Yet too often these safety improvements only follow when a serious injury or fatality happens, and that mentality has to change. So can she say how this strategy is going to give communities that power to take action before it's too late?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his question and for his support. Clearly, local authorities can and should draw on historical collision data when they're assessing road safety measures. But proactive measures to reduce risks shouldn't be contingent on a fatal or serious incident occurring. And it is vitally important that local authorities who have the power and the funding to carry out interventions listen to the concerns of local people and act to prevent serious incidents before they occur, rather than just responding to them when they do.
Maguire.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Ryan Sultan was hit and left for dead by a drunk driver in 2019, with the perpetrator receiving a 4-month suspended sentence. In 2021, Ryan's family launched their Ryan's Law campaign to increase sentences for hit-and-run offences. And in October, I brought a Ryan's Law amendment to the sentencing bill. We all know, Madam Deputy Speaker, there can be lots of talk in this place, but not always much action. Last year, I met the Road Safety Minister with the family, and she has clearly listened and now acted. I thank her and I pay tribute to my incredible North Cornwall constituents, Mark and Helen, Ryan's parents, and Leanne, his sister, for never giving up. They are a true inspiration. Once this consultation closes, how long will it take the Minister to bring draft legislation to this House?
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question and for the work that he has done to support the Saltern family. It was, very humbling to meet Mark and Helen and Leanne and to hear about the work that they are doing to support other victims of road traffic collisions. As he knows, we are consulting on strengthening the law around those who fail to stop and report a collision, and it's just tragic what happened to Ryan. I'm keen that we act as quickly as possibly can. Obviously, where we require legislation, we will have to wait until parliamentary time is available, but I am determined to act.
Lilian. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Minister for her statement today. I welcome this strategy, particularly its focus on speed management. While I see ungritted roads currently make speeding less of an issue thanks to reformed county councils failing to grit across large parts of my constituency, excessive speed in our rural villages such as Chebsey has long put residents in danger. So how will the Minister ensure that rural road segmentation works effectively with local speed limits to reduce dangerous driving in those areas, so safety is delivered by this government's policy and we can get past local county council failure?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and I'm very sorry to hear about the failure of her local council to take action that would prevent further collisions. We know that rural roads are more dangerous, and that's why we are determined to take action to support local authorities to take to introduce measures to make them safer.
Francois.
Thank you, Mum. Another way to improve road safety is to reduce driver frustration caused by roadworks, particularly those that overrun. That's why in 2022 I launched a Can the Cones campaign and a 10-minute rule bill to tighten up on roadworks regulation. I lobbied the then Conservative Roads Minister, and after the election I came and lobbied this Roads Minister, who very kindly gave me a hearing. So I welcome the fact that the government have just announced they're tightening the regulation of roadworks, particularly increasing the fines for those that overrun, which was integral to my bill. So can I give credit where it's due, thank the Minister personally for listening. This won't solve the whole problem of roadworks, but it certainly should help, and I and my constituents will be grateful.
Minister. I'm not entirely sure there was a question in there, but I thank him for his words, and I'm very proud to be part of a government that listens and acts.
Scott Arthur.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I do absolutely welcome this strategy published yesterday. I think, as we've heard, it's going to save lives, and I think a secondary impact should be that it's going to reduce insurance premiums as well, which is a non-trivial challenge for many people. But I do want to talk about the notion of a cognitive test within the strategy. In 2020, in Edinburgh, Xander Irvine was just 3 and he was looking through a shop window with his mother. A car mounted the pavement and killed him and injured his mother. The driver was aged 91. She died around a year later of natural causes. Despite having dementia, she was able to renew her driving licence just a few months before the accident. The Fatal Accident Inquiry was clear in its recommendation that cognitive tests should be introduced. And I believe that all deaths on our roads are preventable, but this death absolutely was. The strategy talks about developing options. Will the Minister go further today and guarantee that we will deliver change in this area? And will she go even further and talk about a timeline for delivering that change? Thank you.
Well, I thank him for his question, and I dealt with the prevention of future deaths report relating to that utterly heartbreaking case that he refers to. While there isn't currently a suitable test of cognitive ability to drive safely, I absolutely recognise the need for us to do further work on this issue. We plan to reconvene the Older Drivers Task Force and expert group on this subject to consider suitable options, and I am not intending to delay. I am intending to take evidence and to take action.
Shaukat Adam.
Speaker, I'd like to refer the House to my registered interest as a practising optometrist, and I'd like to thank the Minister for this wonderful statement, and I wholeheartedly agree with especially the ambitions of reducing the road deaths by 65%. But on the figures that the Minister's mentioned, 1,600 crashes, fatalities, etc., according to the RAC, 280 crashes every year caused by glare, which is a result of the headlights. So can the Minister shed some light on that matter? And also, we are, in the UK, the only country, or one of only countries in Europe that doesn't have mandatory sight tests until passing a driving test till the age of 70. So somebody could pass a driving test at 17, 18, and not have an eye test till they're 70 years old. Wouldn't the Minister agree that we should have every 10 years, or every time a licence is renewed, a sight test to ensure we're safe on the roads? Thank you.
Well, I thank him for his support and for his question. No one should be driving on our roads whose eyesight doesn't meet the required standards. We've had to make a choice to consult on eye tests for those over 70, but of course it would be good advice for everyone to have their eyes tested on a regular basis. When it comes to headlamp glare, we have undertaken research. I know that this is a growing problem, and I certainly recognise it as a driver myself. We're going to be considering the outputs of the research that we've already got and doing further work in addition to internationally, because that's where much of the work is done around vehicle standards. But I absolutely want to take further action in relation to headlamp glare.
We have to definitely speed this up, otherwise colleagues won't be able to get in. Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I first thank the Minister for her written statement this morning regarding enforcement on pavement parking, which is a huge issue in Luton South and South Bedfordshire. But I welcome the launch of today's road safety strategy, particularly the emphasis on tackling drug driving. There was a trebling of fatal collisions between 2014 to 2023 in relation to drug driving. So could the Minister elaborate a little further about how this will be enforced under the new strategy?
Minister.
So I thank her for her question. We know that drug driving is a growing problem. We've already done further publicity around the dangers of drug driving, because not everyone appreciates how dangerous it is, but we also want to crack down on those who do drive with drugs in their system, and that's why we're looking to improve the testing and processing so that we can bring more convictions, but more importantly to deter those from ever getting behind the wheel of a car when they've taken drugs.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Dangerous driving and speeding are among the biggest road safety issues in my constituency. Despite this, the local Cheshire councils frequently say that they cannot introduce further safety measures because the police are unable to enforce them. What discussions has the Minister had with the Home Office to ensure police forces have the funding and resources necessary to enforce existing as well as new driving laws as part of the road safety strategy?
Minister.
Well, I thank her for her question, and I know that she has been a real campaigner on road safety in her time in the House. Clearly, this strategy, or the ambitious targets that we've set, can only be delivered by working in partnership with the police. I have had a number of meetings with the policing minister. We both agree that this is very important, and we will be working with police forces to ensure it's enforced.
Taylor.
Thank you, Madam for taking pity on my throat also. I recently held a public meeting about road safety in Polesworth, where there'd been reports of illegal street racing. Constituents shared with me their concerns about the illegal number plates used by criminals to get away with dangerous driving. That's why I strongly support the government's strategy, which will introduce tougher checks to ensure number plates can be read by cameras and crack down on the use of ghost plates. Can the Minister outline what support my local police force in Warwickshire will receive to crack down on criminal street racing and using illegal number plates?
Well, I thank her for her question and for the work that she's done at a local level. We are bringing in we're consulting on new powers to give police precisely the tools that they need to crack down on the criminals who feel that they can get away with illegal activity by using these ghost plates.
Will Foster.
Madam Deputy Speaker, road safety in Woking is regularly raised with me by my constituents, so therefore I am pleased that the Government have announced ways to toughen up on our drink driving laws. However, police forces, including mine in Surrey, cannot adequately police current drink driving laws as they are. These changes will be less impactful if they're not able to do proper enforcement. With police forces increasingly deprioritising policing on our roads due to budgetary pressures, has the Minister conducted a review of current enforcement, and if she hasn't, will she?
Minister.
Well, thank him for his question. The Government has done a great deal of work in collaboration with the Home Office around roads policing. We know that this is only going to be effective if there is enforcement. Of course, I can't instruct Chief Constables on how they deploy their resources, but we are determined to work in partnership to ensure that this road safety strategy is effective, including the measures around enforcement.
Lawrence Turner.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I also thank the Minister for all her hard work over many years to bring this excellent statement to the House. 500 people are killed or seriously injured on Birmingham's roads every year, including in my constituency. Sadly, due to the historic layout of many of our estates, schools, shops and other amenities are some of the areas at most acute risk. So can she assure the House first, that her department is working with other public agencies to make sure that efforts are targeted at those most at-risk areas, and once the consultations close at the end of March, will every effort be made to respond to them as soon as possible?
Well, I thank him for his kind words. We are working very closely with those who have expressed a similar desire to reduce deaths and serious injuries on our roads, including the Mayor of the West Midlands, who's shown real leadership on this issue. And I can give him that commitment that we intend to act to ensure that the measures that we have set out lead to the changes needed.
Iqbal Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Minister for her statement, and I welcome and commend the road safety strategy from this government. Late last year, there were 3 incidents outside Ligate, Headfield and Westmore schools in my constituency of Dewsbury and Backley. Thankfully, there were no fatalities. I joined West Yorkshire Police, local councillors and the affected schools to conduct a road safety campaign outside these schools. In some parts of the country, roads outside schools are temporarily closed for 30 minutes at the beginning and the end of the day, and other schools have no parking zones that extend to ensure there are no safety risks. Will the Minister confirm what steps the government will be taking to increase road safety outside schools?
Well, I thank him for his question. Local authorities already have the powers to introduce school streets, as he described, or to reduce speed limits outside schools. They have our full backing to use those powers to improve safety outside schools, including those in his constituency.
Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I very much welcome the proposals in this strategy, which I've no doubt will save lives. And can I also thank her for her statement on pavement parking earlier today. Many of us have been raising this over many years. I'm particularly pleased to see moves to crack down on unlicensed and uninsured drivers. Now, the Minister will remember that she kindly met my constituents John and Karen Rowlands last year to talk about the death of their son, Andrew. As the Minister knows, they would like to see better oversight of insurance and licensing, especially in relation to car sales on social media. Would she welcome further representations on this issue as part of the consultation?
Minister.
Well, I thank her for her words and for the incredible work that she's done to advocate, both on behalf of those wanting safer streets and pavements, but also of raising the particular case of John and Karen Rowlands. And I'd be very happy to see their response in relation to the motoring offences consultation.
Anna.
you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank the Minister very much for the statement, but much positivity in it. Anyone who has to declare a health issue on their driving licence will know that it's a much more complex. I declare an interest as a type 2 diabetic, full MOT, eyesight test before you get your driving licence renewal. It doesn't mean you can't drive, it means it has to be regulated. That's the point I'm trying to make. Medical tests and feedback from driving licence renewals being processed. Current waiting time is 16 weeks. I know 2 lorry drivers had to wait 6 months before they got their licence due to the health change, weren't able to work. So what plans are in place to address this specific issue and speed up the process? Thank you so much.
Well, I thank him for his question, and of course the Roads and Buses Minister is sitting next to me, who has responsibility for DVLA. I recognise that there have been delays in dealing with some medical licensing. The DVLA is introducing a new IT system which will certainly help to speed up those licensing investigations he's talked about.
MacNae.
Thank you. More is needed to clamp down on dangerous driving. Holden has seen far too many lives lost as a result of drivers treating the roads as racetracks. And there's much to be welcomed in this strategy, and I congratulate the Minister on the work. However, the proposal to introduce a practical test wait period, I'm not convinced does hold. Already drivers are waiting an unacceptable 24 weeks, and surely tests should be taken at the point that drivers are ready to meet the required standard. In many areas, driving isn't a nice to have, it's essential to get to work, to college, and to go about daily life. So can I ask that this isn't rushed into, and that more is done to end the 24-week wait experienced by drivers in Greater Manchester?
Well, he will know that the government is already taking action to address the driving test wait times, which I know are incredibly frustrating. However, we need to ensure that young drivers are set up for a lifetime of safe driving. We know that a minimum learning period, there's evidence, will save lives and improve safety, and that's why we're consulting on it, but we will listen as part of that consultation.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Every 17 minutes someone is killed or seriously injured on our roads. That's the national scandal, and it's a scandal that this Labour government is tackling through this road safety strategy today. Will she join me in paying tribute to the Rochdale Trading Standards, who, together with local police, led the country in exposing just how ghost number plates are used by criminals, groomers, drug dealers and others to avoid detection? And we should also thank all those bereaved families who campaigned with me and fellow MPs to make sure we have mandatory eye tests for over 70s and much tighter drug driving laws.
Well, I'm very happy to commend those from my honourable friend's constituency who've been doing such fantastic work to campaign, and the police for the work, and Trading Standards for the work that they have been doing. We are determined to act on the things that they've led on.
Natalie Fleet.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This year marks 13 years since the most incredible bestie anybody could wish for, the ray of sunshine that I was lucky enough to have in my life, was killed on our road, leaving her 2 young boys. Asher Vanner, I think about you every day. I also want to pay tribute to Amy Pearson and Chelsea Carlisle that were killed in Plesley in November, with a 9-year-old boy left with life-changing injuries. I want to thank the Minister for the work, but ask her, can we please get this legislation passed as soon as possible so that we can work on preventing unnecessary deaths? Thank you.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and I hope that she will send my condolences to those in her constituency affected by such terrible loss. There is no question that too many people are killed and seriously injured on our roads, and we intend to act to reduce that number as soon as possible.
Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I welcome the Minister's statement this morning and thank her very much for the presentation of the strategy that she's put forward. Road safety is a frequent and serious concern across Erewash, following the tragic murder of Samuel Wilson by a driver under the influence of alcohol and drugs on Ilkeston Marketplace in December 2023. I've been supporting a local campaign for safer road rules and stronger pedestrianisation on our marketplace to prevent such events from ever happening again. Can the Minister comment on how her road safety strategy will make our town centre safer for pedestrians?
Minister.
Well, I thank him for his question, and I'm very sorry to hear about the road traffic collision that he describes in his constituency. One of the things that we're doing as part of this strategy is reissuing the Manual for Streets, which supports local authorities to introduce road safety measures, particularly in urban areas, extending things like pedestrianisation and ensuring that pedestrians are put at the heart of our road safety strategy.
Sarah Russell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In my constituency from 2018 to 2024, 19 people died on the roads. It is usually assumed that that's because we have some motorway in my constituency, but in fact you are 6 times more likely to die on a rural road. Yeah. Thank you very much for the measures within this strategy. I wondered if the Minister agrees with me that when people talk about personal responsibility in respect of driving, and I know that there will be those who will push back about changes to drunk driving limits, that actually they fail to understand the depth of damage that is caused to both families but the wider community when there are so many deaths of young people in my constituency.
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right. Road traffic collisions and deaths and serious injuries, they tear apart families, they tear apart communities, they come at great cost to our National Health Service and to our country, and those are just some of the reasons why we're acting to reduce them.
And join her in paying tribute to those bereaved families who, in the face of unimaginable loss, have campaigned for these road safety improvements. At the end of 2025, there were a number of serious accidents at Moor Farm roundabout in my constituency, leading to hospitalisations and serious delays on the network. The Minister knows very well my campaign for improvements at Moor Farm that were not long neglected by the previous government, which I'll continue to push for as part of the road investment strategy. But can she say a little on how these two strategies will interact and hopefully unlock these vital improvements?
Well, safer roads is an essential pillar of the safe system approach that underpins our road safety strategy. I know we've had a number of conversations about investments in infrastructure, and road safety remains the top priority for national highways as they devise their roads investment strategy.
Super short questions and super sharp answers. Yes, Sarah Edwards.
Now, whilst I welcome the road safety strategy, it sadly ignores school minibus safety, despite my raising this with the department last year. I've been campaigning with my constituents Liz and Steve Fitzgerald since 2023, following the tragic loss of their daughter Claire in a minibus accident. Private schools follow strict O-licence rules, yet state schools can use weak Section 19 permits. Will the Minister remedy this failing in the law with mandatory national safety standards for all school minibuses?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising this issue. My colleague, the Roads and Buses Minister, was listening carefully, and I'm sure we will be happy to write to her or meet with her to discuss this issue further.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The honourable member for Clacton described the government's plans to reduce the blood alcohol limit as absolutely ridiculous, wholly unacceptable, and said that the current system worked pretty effectively. Does my honourable friend agree that the families of the 260 people who tragically died as a result of intoxicated drivers' behaviour would strongly disagree, and that we should reject these claims?
Just a bit of guidance for colleagues. If you are going to be mentioning another member in the House, it is protocol to let them know in advance. Minister.
Well, it's noticeable that the honourable member for Clacton is not here, but I would invite him to sit down with any of those families that I have sat down with and claim that there is no need for action. 260 lives lost. Every single one of them preventable.
Lilian.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank the Minister for taking the time before Christmas to talk to me about my constituent, Jamie Nolan, 17 years old, who sadly lost his life in October last year when his vehicle left a rural road in the dark. His parents, Sam and Paul, obviously are devastated, but they're really keen to make sure that things are improved for other families so they don't experience this kind of a tragedy. Can the Minister advise perhaps how they could get involved once they get through the worst of their grief, to ensure that the excellent measures to focus on young people, rural roads, so signage, road markings and local speed limits can be implemented across Lincolnshire's roads.
Yeah.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and my heart goes out to her constituents, and I would be very happy to meet with them and her to discuss what further action can be taken at whenever time they think is appropriate.
Luke Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. One of the first people I met when I became MP was my constituent Janine, whose son Leon was killed tragically on a road in my constituency in 2020. I'm proud that working with her we were able to get the speed limit changed on that road, but there's much more that needs to happen nationally to make sure this never happens again. So I welcome the road safety strategy today. And it acknowledges that there is a relationship between deprivation and casualties, and so I wonder whether when implementing this strategy resources will be targeted in the communities that need it most across the country.
I welcome his question and the very important point that he makes. We've particularly called for action to tackle the deaths and serious injuries to children on our roads, and we know that they are far more at risk in more deprived communities, and I will consider further the point that he makes around funding.
Patrick Hurley.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As the Minister knows, my constituents Mary Cunningham and Grace Fylde were killed by a driver who'd been told several times that his eyesight fell far below the legal standard to drive. Eye care professionals are not currently required to inform the DVLA if someone's vision is so poor that they can't safely get behind the wheel. So can I ask the Minister to consider mandating eye care professionals to report directly to the DVLA all drivers with insufficient visual acuity and an inadequate field of vision, no matter what their age?
Minister.
Well, I thank him for that question, and I pay tribute to the campaigning work of Terry Cunningham and his sister Sue Rematis, who have acted following the sad loss of their mother Mary and her friend Grace. He's absolutely right that medical professionals have an important role to play, and we want to make sure that we work with their professional bodies to ensure that they do report to DVLA in those circumstances.
John Pearce.
I'm very grateful to the Minister for publishing this strategy. I met recently with the community in Tintwistle in my constituency who are concerned about speeding and unsafe driving on the A628. I've also had similar conversations with communities in Pig Forest and in Padfield. They desperately want road safety measures, but every time we ask, the answer comes back, I'm afraid somebody has to die first. This is the very thing that we're trying to avoid. Could the Minister reassure me and my constituents that this road safety strategy will put the power back into those communities so that they can protect local people?
Minister.
Well, I thank him for the question, and it is local authorities that have the power to act in relation to road safety. We're determined to give them the guidance that they need to take action in a proactive way to save lives in communities such as his.
Chris Webb.
We've seen in Blackpool year-on-year increases of uninsured drivers, skyrocketing our premiums and cost of insurance. So can the Minister outline to my constituents what her department is doing to clamp down on this, and have they done any assessment of what this will mean for the pockets of constituents like mine?
Well, we work very closely between arm's length bodies of the Department for Transport and the police on Operation Tutelage to prevent those, to take those people off the road who are driving uninsured. We're proposing tougher measures to deal with uninsured drivers. And frankly, if there were fewer road traffic collisions, it would reduce insurance costs for everyone.
Newbury.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I very much welcome this strategy and the Minister's commitment to making the changes necessary to bring down the tragic and avoidable loss of life on our roads. For Road Safety Week, I launched a survey and I've already heard from many constituents across Cannock Chase who don't feel safe on our roads, with speeding and dangerous junctions causing particular concern. Would the Minister join me in encouraging people in my towns and villages to fill out my survey so I can take up their specific concerns, but also agree with me that the knowledge of local people will be vital to achieving the government's mission of sharply reducing deaths on our roads?
I'm very happy to encourage his constituents to complete that survey. It's vitally important that the views of local people are heard by those local authorities who have the power to act to save lives.
David Francis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for her statement. Over the last 17 months, I've supported my constituents Goole and Borobasaki. In August 2024, a bus mounted the pavement in Bexley Heath and killed their 9-year-old daughter, Ada. The driver of that bus, who mounted the pavement, was subsequently found guilty of causing death by dangerous driving and driving while unfit through drugs. I would like to pay tribute to the family's campaign work on issues relating to drug driving, and can I therefore ask the Minister to confirm that the strategy includes a review of the penalties for drug driving offences and the exploration of alternative methods for drug driving evidence collection and processing?
Well, I thank him for the work that he's done to support his local constituents who I had the pleasure of meeting at the Livia Awards last year. I can confirm that we are taking the action he sets out to curb drug driving and ensure that those who act in such a reckless manner feel the full consequences of the law.
Andrew Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I commend the Minister on bringing forward the first road safety strategy in more than a decade, alongside the specific and measurable targets for cutting the number of deaths on our roads. I think evidently it's a shared experience across the House, the first time you meet the family of a child who's been killed on our roads. In my case, it was a child from Middlewich who was just cycling to school when he was hit by a young driver racing another car, and the sense of utter devastation, but also the sense of determination from the parents that this cannot be allowed to happen to another family will stay with me, his friends, the school and our community forever. Madam Deputy Speaker, the strategy sets out a broad range of measures that the government wants to bring in. Will she commit to publishing a timetable for when each consultation and each measure is likely to come in so we can give reassurance to families that we're going to do this?
Minister.
Well, I can provide him with the assurance that we are going to do this. We're going to establish a new road safety board that I will chair to ensure that we make progress on the measures that we've set out in the strategy and look at how soon we can act to ensure that those people see change happening.
Chris Hinchcliffe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As I've previously discussed with the Minister, the A505 is one of the deadliest roads in the country, and the stretch between Baldock and Royston in my constituency in particular has seen tragedy after tragedy. So can I ask the Minister to set out how this road safety strategy will empower local highways authorities to take the actions they need to finally make the A505 safer?
Minister.
I thank him for his question. This strategy is going to be delivered in partnership with local authorities. We're strengthening the guidance that we provide to them so that they can put in place those measures that are needed to save lives.
Mark Stewart.
Deputy Speaker, can I commend the Minister on this strategy? I know how much tireless work she's put into it. I represent residents on Stonebridge Lane in Farnley, Dixon Lane in Wortley, Green Lane in Lofthouse and Westerton Road in Tingley, who all tell me that the speeds on their roads are far too high, but are repeatedly told by the Highways Department that the mean average speed is too low to do anything about it, despite the fact that the mean average speed is often slightly higher than the speed limits on those roads. As a former maths teacher, I know the value of data, but I also know the limitations of the mean. So what will this road safety strategy do to alleviate my residents' genuine concerns?
Well, I thank him for his question, and these are very familiar concerns that he raises on behalf of his constituents. And we know that the guidance around setting speed limits and around taking action needs updating, and that's why we've committed to do that as part of this road safety strategy.
That is the end on the road safety